Okay, so here we are ready to go with our dual game, Summer Scala, and hey, I got a new light set up here. Yeah, that's a table leg it's sitting on, and a Lesser Wrath combined. Now, beyond the initial problem of what the hell is up with those guards, we have another issue here, which is the starting turn. What is it? And that's a good question. So over here in Poking a Bear with the Stick under a Lesser Wrath, it specifies, and this is almost cut and pasted with some significant little differences, that the game's gonna start on turn 11 of August. This is the land game. And then you start rolling to see if the war starts. On a 3 or less, it will. Okay. And these are always 10-sided dice in this game. You want to roll low for the effect, usually. But here, in Summer Scala, it's a little different. To add variability, begin checking for war start on the turn that Kronstadt St. Petersburg is ice-free. Roll 1 die. Now, it doesn't say when you start playing the game. That's when you start checking for war. It doesn't even mention when you start playing. But okay, because you do start playing in both cases before the war starts. The reason for that especially is important on Summer Scala because you have these really, really damaged ship counters that you don't have available to you. So when does the ship repair? When should it start? What's going on? I don't know. But here's the thing I do know. If you play Summer Scala starting in the turn that I've got set here, and that's when you start repairing your ships, you're not going to get many. So I'd rather have a little bit more naval action. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do at all. That's an issue across the board with this game. I'm quite often not sure what I'm supposed to do to follow the rules. It's very hard to decipher them at times. So I think I'm going to try to follow the Summer Scala rules. I'm going to start rolling for when the ice cap might break. And I'll start playing at that point. And once it actually does break, well, then I'll start worrying about the possibility of a declaration of war. And I'll use the Summer Scala rules for that because they could cause a war to happen earlier. How does that affect deployment? You know, the Swedes had some time to place their units, etc. The Russians certainly did to prepare for this situation. I don't know. But we'll just try to do it as best as we can, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do there is, in order to try to figure out what Summer Scala is talking about here, which is begin checking for war on the turn that Kronstadt St. Petersburg is free of ice, is that we're going to pull one of the, and Ghost of Charles XII kind of hints at this by saying, you know, where rules contradict each other, use the Summer Scala ones. Okay, yeah, but I could understand the ones on a Lesser Wrath. I don't get the ones in Summer Scala, but we'll see. Okay, so over here we've got to look at that ice table, and we're not going to play with the wind until at least the game starts, whatever that means. All right, we page through this and page through it and page through it until we finally find the ice table. And in order to do this, let's grab a couple of 10-siders. I like these two because, well, they look like Sweden and Russia to me somehow. Okay, so looking through this, the first time the E-ports can clear is 6. The E-ports are not what I'm worried about. E-ports are over here on this side of the map. I'm worried about B. So what's the earliest point at which B's could end up clearing? That looks like March, April. So let's start with the March, April turn over here. And, you know, this is kind of what you got to do. And that's a quarterly turn, so that's kind of nice in some sort of way. And we'll do the same over here, if I can find March, April. Now I'm going to leave these Swedes here in August with the feeling that, hey, the Swedes simply would not be ready to fight before then. I think those are Swedes. Maybe they're Russians. Yeah, they're Swedes. Finns, actually. And then these are the Russian reinforcements here in September. Great. Okay. So let's see what we get. Well, let's make sure we're doing the right thing here. Somewhere or another we have the sequence of play. At least for the Sea Lord side, I'm going to have to be playing both at once. And that kind of could get to be troublesome, especially on the video. All right, so the first thing we do is we deal with the ice. Okay, great. So in March, April, we'll roll a die. And we only roll one die, and it'll cover all of these. I get a 1. That means everything has just cleared. Okay, that's great. I go over here, and I clear these ice packs out of the way. And they're no longer available. What does that do about the B table? Well, we do actually have to worry about this. I'm trying to remember what clears first. Sea Area A was already clear from this, and Sea Area B here is clear. But these guys all have limited amounts of ice pack on them. That's just to indicate that... Oops. That won't work. That's just to indicate that those ports actually are clear, but for land operations over here, I'm going to be restricted a little bit. And these white dots are actually movable, but they're really at risk right now. You don't want to actually walk on them. It has some effect, I guess. I don't know. All right. I think that's covered in here. I talked about it a little earlier. Ice. Too great to permit operations in the Gulf. Okay. So I guess actually I can't use sea units to actually come into close to the coast on here or something, even though they can come out of the ports because the ports have been cleared. I don't know. Okay, so that's the first step there. Now I got to worry about, hey, when can I enter? You know, does the war start? And that was on a 2 or less, so I get to roll again. We can't find that. And we do not start the war yet. So now, well, without the war started, there's not much I can do over here. This operation is not, I don't know whether or not it should be officially in play because it's going to start costing the Russians if it is in play. However, this is really early, and technically they shouldn't have this here. If I was starting in August, they would. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this sucker over here in the August phase, and I'm not going to allow them to use that until either the war starts or it's August, whichever one comes first. Now, they will have to start paying for that campaign if August hits and the war hasn't started. And that's fine. All right. Now, I'd be allowed to place dummies and determine wins. Well, I have no job to do. Nobody's got any tasks in play. Now, I can actually task my ships and get victory points even before the war starts over here. I can do some cruising, some shows of force, stuff like that before the war starts. But right now, I can't do anything. All my orders are sitting here in the order box, and that's for both sides. I got them upside down just to confuse the world. So, well, that's fine. What else can I do? Well, I have to worry about winds because it is possible that gales could be developing and could end up sweeping over the ports and causing them problems. It's not absolutely clear to me, but I don't think that the gales can actually enter these ports because they're not colored with the sea zones. Now that's weird because it does actually look like there are effects that allow you to hit a port directly. I don't know about that. When I looked at the charts, something told me about that. Anyway, yes, it is you know, I'm truly in this position of being this confused. So the first thing we look at here is we're in springtime. That's what that column or line is going to mean. So we go over to our little table here, and yes, I don't have enough space for on my table for both the game and this. So now I'm going to start rolling, and I roll on the spring table, and I'm looking for a 0 through 2 or 8 through 9. That's going to cover the winds sort of on this side of the map over here. I get an 8. That means I'm going to get a west-southwest wind. Let's zoom in a little to show the chart. And now I'm going to have to roll under west-southwest to see whether or not I get a gale out of that. I do not. Now, these are going to be checked each impulse. This doesn't mean much, but I'll put it here just to show you how that's going to work. And that marks that these yellow seasonal wind lines, which kind of go northward, they go up out of the, up from the deeper into the Baltic, into Bothnia and whatever. That's what those are covering. And now I have to check for the other set of seasonal winds, which are these, and those are less likely, as you can see. This camera hurts my hand. Okay, 3, that's not going to generate anything. Great. Well, that's the first impulse. Now, there's nothing else I can do, so I'm going to be checking those winds for a bit. I'll come back once I'm done with them. I lied a little bit there. I've moved through 2 more of these impulses. I'm on the 3rd impulse up here. And what do we have? Well, I rolled an east-northeast wind with a 0. And then I rolled again, I don't remember what number, but I think it was a 0 on the gale. That means I get a gale. Lights just changed somehow. A gale on the east-northeast. Great. Well, I'm going to have to grab a gale counter and place it. But in order to do this, I have to look here, east-northeast. This gale is going to go any space next to the Finnish coast, ranging from the space directly northwest and adjacent to Ulla to Kronstadt inclusive. Start by determining whether the gale enters the Gulf of Bothnia or the Gulf of Finland. 50-50 chance. Great. Okay. Well, I don't know where to put my dividing line, but I can roll that 50-50, and odd will be up to the north. I don't remember which one's which. Well, obviously, Finland's going to be the northern one. I think Bothnia's over there. Odd, so I get the northern side. I don't know how many spaces I have. I actually really don't know. I think it said north of Ulla. Let's see. We got to look at all this up. Northwest and adjacent to Ulla. Great. All right, so now there are actually a lot of spaces here. I'm going to say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I like to put this one over there. So I'm going to say there's 8 spaces. Is that right? I don't know. Are these little spaces counting? I don't know. But they can't really travel on those little ones, so it doesn't really count. Another question is, do the ports count? What counts as adjacent? All very much left, to the player's discretion to decide what the rules mean here. I get a 9, that's no good. I'll be going from the north down. Now I get a 7. A 7, there were 8 of these, and I had, what force was it? I don't remember. I think it was a force 9, which will be a gale force 2 on the chit because they don't correlate with one another. I rolled a 7. This was 8 here, so 7 has to be here, I guess. And that's where the gale starts. Now, things have just changed. Now the gale is going to move. And this is going to just happen on every turn. It's not really a big deal here. The only place it can hurt you is hitting over at Stockholm. Now I have to worry a little about this because I'm only 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 spaces from Stockholm, maybe 3, who knows. So I have to look up how it moves. The gale will move south through the Gulf of Bothnia, west through the Gulf of Finland, and so I got them wrong. And southwest once in the region of the central Baltic. Now I believe these guys can slide into the sea areas. I'm not positive about that, but there was some indication that that's the case. So I'm going to be heading basically down this way, which fits the type of sea that I have. So I've got to follow not blue lines, but I can only go to these spaces and maybe the C space here. So what I'll do, 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess there. All right, so now I'm in here. Now, that was the first movement point for that gale. Now I'm on the second movement point, and I guess I move in. I don't have to make a wind check, I suppose. So that moves my second. On the third, I'm going to pump out, because there's a lot of ground to cover there or something. And now on the fourth, I've got to come out of there, and I can come out, it looks like, only in this direction. There's no blue line going this way. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3 different places that I could go from there. Who knows? That's 9, that's 3. That puts me here. And that is the end of the round, the end of the impulse. Great. So now I'm on the fourth impulse, and that wind will remain there, that gale, although it's going to dissipate as soon as it leaves the blue areas. But that wind will remain in play if I roll that this wind maintains itself throughout there. Let's show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to roll here on a 0 through 2. That gale stays. It could get stronger if I roll another gale. I get a 3. That means the wind itself has died out, and the gale will go with it. And they both disappear. And then, of course, I roll for the other wind. And we might as well do that since I'm on camera. Nothing shows up. That's pretty much the operations for the first turn. Nobody could sail. Nobody had anything they really want to do. So now we go to the administrative phase. Now, what am I doing over on this map? I'm not doing anything. Nobody's got any campaigns. Nobody's allowed to move. What I did forget to do, though, is each impulse, one of these pops away. So second impulse, third impulse, fourth impulse. Okay, all the ice is gone. Great. We don't really need these. Those are to handle the naval abstraction in the ground game. But when we move back here, we do have to deal with actually both maps situation with the administrative phase. Let's look at the ground one, if I can find the rules for that. They are not in this booklet. They're in this one. And just make sure nothing exciting happens here, because who knows? You know, we have political events, possibility of a coup. That's not going to happen here. We have the succession crisis. You know, I'm not going to start rolling for that until we hit that August turn, or maybe the war takes place or something, because it really doesn't make sense at this point to start putting that extra burden on there. That can affect some aspects of the game that I don't want to take care of. The Reichstag, well, that I think is important, but we're going to use the Sommerskala for that primarily. And then faction, that is the Reichstag. Peace index, we don't have war. Campaigns, nobody's going to pick a campaign yet. We're not at war, and we're not at that place, and I don't have to worry really about any of the rest of this. So I can ignore the Lesser Wrath at this point, and I go back to here. Now the administrative phase here is actually easier. I have to deal with the hats and caps. That's 3.13. That's going to be a chart in here, the Reichstag table, and I get to roll this. I get a 7. That's a balance. That means this hat dominance actually goes away. Okay? We may see that later. It doesn't get rid of any orders that the hats have in here. The only way to get rid of those is they get removed if you go to the caps, the peaceniks, as it were. Okay? Now, no coup possibility. No military campaigns in play yet, but here's the interesting thing. I could set sail. Now, I don't want to set sail for one reason. My ships are all in terrible shape here. They're all over there on the +10 side, and they have, whoops, yeah, don't bump these ever, because terrible things will happen. You might end up nudging them and lose some sales or gain sales that way. And same with the Russians. They're over at like 24 hits on their ships. So nobody's in a position where they can actually sail here. Okay, so I don't want to draw for orders, because although it would fill out my order pool and help me if I get any ships available, if I put some in my hand, I don't know if I'll have ships available. Okay. So, reinforcement, right. So reinforcement and reorg. Now, here I could take advantage of the Archangel 3.16 event. My Archangel fleet is not in particularly good shape, though. These guys each have 10, 12 hits on them. They're not going anywhere, so they're going to wait to repair. And I could roll for reinforcements. I'm not really happy doing that until the war starts, or tensions get to a heavier point. I just don't feel like it's applicable here. The main reason I'm doing this jump start so early over here is, hey, I'm going to have maximal chances to repair the ships I have, but I don't really want to start throwing reinforcement ships into play until war is inevitable. Again, these are just judgment calls. I don't know whether or not I should do that. But what I do want to do here, I skip down through here. I can't play with any of the leaders. Auxiliaries are all fine. There's not going to be any attrition. Everybody's in ordinary. I'm not going to release any of my ships, but I do get to conduct repair. And that's what I want to show. Because, yeah, I got cut off in mid-word there. Because that's pretty much what's going to be happening here, is we're going to be repairing ships to try to prepare for the upcoming situation. So I'm not worrying about reinforcements yet. I may start randomly doing them. This is what I'm going to be dealing with, this repair table here. And what am I going to do? Well, I grab a couple of dice, and I get to pick specific ships. So let's do the easy way first. Here in Archangel, I have, a Soldi, a frigate, and a single ship of the line. I want the lighter ships available earlier, so I'm going to roll for the Sol. I only get 2 rolls over here. I'm going to roll for the Soldi. And I failed. I'll roll for the frigate. I get a 6. The frigate is repaired by 1 point. And if I can find it without knocking my pieces over, it goes down to 11 damage. Great. In a year, I might be ready to sail. That's fine. The ice isn't even gone yet. Likewise, here what's kind of interesting is I have my ship split up between St. Petersburg and Kronstadt. You're allowed to do that. So I get a free roll over here at Kronstadt. And what I have here is my galleys. Looks like I have 10 galleys. Well, I'm going to take one of the big 4s and I'll try to repair that. Now, if I really wanted to go all out with galleys, I would have put a couple up here and be rolling all my dice on the galleys, basically. But I don't want to go all out on them. So I get 2 damage points repaired on the galleys. I'm going to leave a 4 on top of there, because that's easier than putting a 2 up here. And this is easier for me to cope with. Another question is, what do I want to repair over here in St. Petersburg? And what I do not want to repair is well, I don't want to repair ships of the line, Ds, although they can be converted to auxiliaries, as can the frigates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repair the 2 big ships of the line there. Let's do the biggest one first. Now I could spread these out so that I have more of a chance. One of them goes down by 1. One of them goes down by 2. I need a couple more counters here. And then I'm going to actually try to repair a frigate, because I find, well, yeah, I find them more useful because I can convert them into fleet auxiliaries. They're a little less, I think there's a different kind of auxiliary for the ship of the line than the fleet 50s. and they're not as good. And that's going to go down by only 1 damage point. So that'll go here. And I do the same with the Swedes. Yeah, when the Danes come in, this is going to get even worse, isn't it? First one is I get 2 die rolls over here in Stockholm, and I have a lot of galleys. Let's take care of them. Doesn't matter which one I do first. I get a 2 damage point and a 1 damage point repair. So my Swedish galleys are repairing fairly quickly. And then I have my fleet here. I do not want to do the flagship. I want to get a ship of the line, well, let's do a ship of the line first. A 2, that counts as 2 damage points there. So let's look for my big ship of the line. I'll do a ship of the line D, and I'll do a frigate. Just to have a maximal options there. Ship of the line D, pairs by 2. And the frigate, I only get 1 on the frigate. And now I'm going to be concentrating on the ships that I've partially repaired, mainly because I want something I can play with. That's more important to me than, you know, getting some sort of balanced repair across my fleet, because none of it can sail. If I'm sailing, you know, until I get down to 10, really, is it even at all feasible? And once your ships are out, they're taking damage every round, every turn, so they're going to be collecting up a lot of damage. You don't really want those suckers out there when they're at all damaged, because if they hit over that 10, they're going to start sinking, and that is terrible. You'll lose by doing that. Now that's all I have. I could designate squadrons to fit out, and I could do Fleet Admiral Relief. Well, Fleet Admiral Relief happens once a year, and it basically happens if you've kind of failed, you have a better chance of it. Again, it's not absolutely clear what happens when your Fleet Admiral's relieved. Does he leave the game or not? I think he has to leave the game, because otherwise things don't work right. That is the end of the first turn of the game. And as you can see, a lot of mechanical stuff going on, even though there's no game being played. That's fine. But I'm going to probably skip videoing a lot of that mechanical stuff, the wind's playing, etc. Except as it kind of impacts things. I might zoom in and say, look, we had a big wind hit, well, come close to Karlskrona, enough to possibly do damage, but it didn't because of this. Or we had a wind come in and hit Kronstadt and do damage, or Stockholm, or whatever. Or, you know, however that works out, if it's actually impacting play. Repairs, I'll probably just come in at the end of the administrative phase and talk about that. And as we go on more and more into the game, I'm going to play less and less detail. But right now I thought it was important to show the mechanics that are in play for, you know, generating the wins and handling the repairs. Because to tell you the truth, most of the game that I played of Summer Scala was all about just watching the winds blowing and repairing the ships, because I couldn't get anything to sail. Right now you can't build convoys or anything like that because the war hasn't started yet. But once the war starts, you'll see a little bit more action, a little bit more possibilities entering the game. And you know, hopefully it'll be of some interest. All right, up